The same thing that I say as far as your savings account. When I say treat savings like an expense, I'm saying expense just like any other bill. You have no problems paying a mortgage, so you shouldn't have a problem paying yourself, because essentially it is an investment in your future. Because remember, success isn't a destination, it's a journey. And so remember, you're constantly going to hit milestones. You're constantly going to get to different points. And so I would say you have to put a comprehensive financial plan together. Just don't think about your business, because things can change in a year, in 5 years.
Are you in the position now where you're having to start thinking about what will retirement look like for you, or you aren't even quite sure how to get started? This is going to be the perfect conversation for you today. Thank you for tuning in to the Hustle Free Entrepreneur Podcast. In today's conversation, we are going to be talking about how to get prepared as an entrepreneur for retirement. I have an amazing guest that's here who, ironically, we went to high school together, or we passed each other in high school. His name is Larry Poteat Jr. He has over 17 years of experience in the personal finance and real estate space. He specializes in helping individuals and their families with building and protecting their wealth. So I'm super excited to have this conversation, because if any time to talk about it would definitely be now, because we do have to be more proactive with our approach to how we want retirement to look like, even if we are an entrepreneur. So thank you so very much for being a guest today.
Thank you so much, Jesse. I appreciate your time and the opportunity.
Sure, no problem. So share a little bit about yourself and your experience, and we'll jump right into this conversation.
Yes. So just giving a little bit of background, as far as I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C., Southeast specifically. As you stated, we definitely crossed paths in high school. We went to Banneker Senior High School in Washington, D.C., which is an amazing, amazing school, and definitely got a lot of experiences from that. And actually, I credit Banneker for where I am today. As far as when I graduated, I thought I was going to take the engineering route, but I actually took the business route, which in hindsight was the best opportunity and the best situation for me. And so, like you stated, I'm currently in the financial space as well as the real estate space as well. I got my real estate license in 2008. Ironically, and actually, it's kind of going through a similar market situation that we're going through now. As far as in 2008, if a lot of people may not remember, but we were going through the market and the mortgage crisis, where there were exotic mortgages. The housing market was crazy. And a lot of people thought I was crazy getting into the market when it was at that particular point, as far as it was out of control. People were losing houses. There were foreclosures, short sales. But for me, I felt like that was the best opportunity to come in. One, because I learned a lot, because there was so much going on. A lot of times you don't realize who you are until you deal with adversity, challenges, and things like that. And so getting into a market where there were a lot of challenges, I learned right off the bat the good, the bad, the ugly of the real estate market. So that was a great opportunity for me to be well-rounded and well-diverse in the real estate market, as well as jumping into the financial arena as well. Even from my Banneker days, I've always had an interest in budgeting, writing in your checkbook, balancing out your checkbook, getting into stocks and things of that sort. And so officially, I got I got licensed in the financial area in 2015. But going back to my Banneker days, 1995, 1998, I've had a passion and an interest in the financial arena.
And some people haven't actually been aware. I've actually had on both this podcast and other podcasts a good amount of people that went to Banneker with me. And I think the beautiful thing about it is the preparation for the future. And when we talk about financial, and for you, you mentioned like being exposed to business and a lot of the things that honestly I have become more present to and grateful for as an adult in the last year or two is the exposures that we were able to get um, because of our academic upbringing in some of the schools that we've gone to. And when it comes to financial literacy and understanding about retirement or just having an understanding about money, that honestly is can even be viewed as a privilege. Like, I've been in this space and it might seem so weird. I've been in this space lately, definitely for like the last year or two, is being present to privilege. And often people only associate privilege to color. In reality, privilege can just also be to understanding of just money day to day. How do you have access to certain things? And let's be honest, a lot of places, their school systems, the infrastructure are not intended for people to be educated in these things. So that's why that might even tie into the fact that what is the statistic on how, like, I think the average person doesn't have at least $1,000. And I'm not quite sure what the statistic is on just people being prepared for retirement. Like, it may not always be tied into people just don't want to do better. Is I do feel like it's just some people don't know how to do better, or they don't even know what doing better is because it's not something that they're exposed to. From your experience, are you finding that some people just are not prepared because of not knowing or not choosing to know? Like, what are you finding?
Yes, I definitely agree with you. And we always hear the term, or I guess the statement, knowledge is power.
Mhm.
But it's more so applied knowledge is the
Yeah.
power. And like you said, it is about seeking that information and finding that information. And a lot of times we may not be privy to that information. So it is about, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why I got into these particular spaces, as far as in the financial space, in the business space, in the real estate space, just to be a blessing and just to share what information that I have with others. Because, like you said, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm privileged, but I would say that I've had the opportunity to be around individuals who have put me in a situation to either spread that information or give that information to me, and me just being willing to seek out that information and absorb it and apply it. Yes, sometimes it may not be a success all the time. Sometimes it may be a failure, but at least you took what you had, and maybe if even if you didn't have all of the information, you took what you had and applied it. Going back to
Yeah.
what you said as far as budgeting, and then getting to $1,000 of individuals having $1,000 in savings, and that is correct. I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's close to 75-80% of individuals do not have at least $1,000 in their savings accounts, which is unfortunate, because when you think about emergencies, a lot of times we can't plan for emergencies. And so an emergency can be $500 or $1,000. That could be something happened medically, something happened to your car, to your house. We need to budget, and we need to make sure that we have some type of savings. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later on in this conversation, but that's one of the reasons why I specialize in my BSI challenge, which is budgeting, saving, and investing. The foundation of your financial plan is always your budget. And so within your budget, you're tracking your income, but also expenses, but not getting too much into it. But a lot of times when we think about expenses, we think about mortgage, rent, car notes, student loans, things of that sort. But one thing we forget about is the savings aspect of it. And that's, to your point, a lot of times we're like, well, let's pay our bills, whatever we have left, that's going to be what we save. But when we think that way, a lot of times if we see extra money in our account, we're like, we have extra money, let's spend it.
Let's blow it.
Yes. And so that's one of the reasons why we don't have at least $1,000, because we treat that extra money as it's extra money. We're going to spend it versus, hey, let's put a designated number to savings. Let's treat savings like an expense. So if we treat it just like any other bill, if we're saying, okay, we're saving $100 this month, we're paying $2,000, $3,000 in rent or mortgage, or $1,000 in car notes, we need to have a specified number for savings. That's the only way that we're going to do it. And once we do that, we can surpass that $1,000. We can get to, now our minimum is $10,000. Now we have more flexibility. Now we have more earning power and spending power, and then we can do more.
And I'm glad that you gave those numbers because some people may be listening and be like, okay, is this only a conversation for just an individual? What I find is that this is something that even business owners do not grasp, and especially for businesses that may have a lot of money flowing into it. Anyone can listen to this podcast. However, a lot of you probably are in the vein of a service based business or specifically in the event industry. And you can have a ton of revenue, and a ton is relative to each person's business, but you can have a lot of money flowing through. And what happens is that we're not paying ourselves. Then when we are paying ourselves, we're not doing the things in which Larry just discussed. And then what happens is then we find ourselves, and that's the reason why I thought this conversation be so pivotal, is because we find ourselves either having to work until we die, not because we love it and we just want to do it, is because we haven't prepared ourselves to have anything to even stop. And because we have all this money that's coming through our business and coming through, we're not tracking us paying ourselves. And then once we're paying ourselves, breaking it into specific buckets to ensure that we are preparing either for our personal lives, just so that we're covering the things that we need to cover, but also covering for our future. And here's the thing, no shame at all at to where you are today. That's why we're having this conversation, because I feel like even when someone doesn't have a business, they're just like, if I don't look at it, it's not happening. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to be like, okay, this may be uncomfortable. I may be in the red. I may be in a place where I don't even know how to get myself out. That's why Larry is here to talk to you today. He also has some free resources that I will make sure to even have in the box, and you can reach out to him for his other services. But the only way that things change is first facing it. And also, you now are listening to this to actually be in a place of like, let's think about like what I need to do inside of my life. What do I need to do in my business to really be able to shift from? That's why I call it the hustle free entrepreneurs, because sometimes when we're getting into business, we're hustling and we're just moving money. We may be growing, we have success, we're having traction, but we're still in this hustle mindset instead of like, okay, I'm a business owner. I'm a CEO. Like, I'm going to do the things I need to do so that myself, my family, my business, if I want to keep my business, if I want to sell my business, whatever your intention is, that you're doing it intentionally and you're doing it in the way that you're giving yourself proper education. I did find a statistic. It said that nearly 34% of small business owners don't have a retirement savings plan in place. And so I have a question for you, Larry. What are some of the biggest risks that people can face by not planning early for retirement?
Yes, and that's the foundation of our financial plan. It is all about planning, because essentially this is another statement that I have. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And so it's one of those things, whether it's like you said on the personal side, whether it's on the business side, I always start off with the budget. We have to set aside resources, whether it's saving for a savings account, if you have children, whether it's a 529, but specifically to your question, it's all about retirement. You have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're not going to save for it. And I think as business owners, a lot of times we're in that hustle season, we're on that grind mode. So we're not thinking about retiring. We're just heads down, focused. We're in the trenches. And it's just like, I'll think about it when I need to think about it. But we need to think about it today, because otherwise, like you said, we're putting ourselves in a position where we're going to work for the rest of our lives. We have to, going back to what I said, we have to set a designated number. We have to look at our budget. It's not just going to happen just by us saying we need to have a retirement plan. No, we have to look at our budget. We have to look at what we're bringing in. Like you said, just because we don't have a retirement plan doesn't mean that we're broke or we're not bringing in money. We can bring in money all day. It really doesn't matter how much you're bringing in. It's how you manage the money that you're bringing in. And so if you're making $1 million, if you're making 100,000, even if you're making $10,000, if you can manage it well, you're fine. But if your budgeting is out of control, your spending is out of control, your expenses are out of control, it's all because you weren't planning. So first and foremost, I would say either we need to sit down or they need to sit down and strategically map things out. When do you plan to retire? How much do you want to retire with? And I can do the calculations, or they can even look up the calculations and see, okay, if I have 10 years, I need to put away $2,000 a month. That will equal, I'm throwing out numbers, but that will equal $2 million by the time they want to retire. And that means they can retire every single year with 150,000. Whatever those numbers are, you get to those numbers because you're planning. If you don't plan, you're not going to execute anything. So first and foremost, that's what I would say. It's all about sitting down, and everything starts with the budget. And you're going to hear me say the B word all of the time. The B word in this case is budgeting, just to be clear, but it's all about the budget, because if you don't have a budget, you're not going to know where your money is going. And that's what I tell my clients. That's what I tell everybody, because a lot of times we walk around and we say, okay, I know how much my mortgage is. I know how much my car note is. Everything is here. I can make this purchase because I think I should have $500 in my account. We shouldn't be playing around with our money like that. We should know to a T, especially as business owners, because it is about being strategic, being organized, being disciplined. We're supposed to have those tools. We're supposed to have those concepts in mind so that it's not a guessing game. We're not playing with our future.
Yeah, and it was over the years I've had conversations, especially I would say when I turned 39. So that's been over like the last, I would say over the last 4 to 5 years, I've been in this place of thinking like, man, what do I want 65 to look like? And, 4 or 5 years ago, we were in the pandemic and, getting the beginning, in that season, let's just say. And we know what they kept saying about the inflation rates. And I remember one day I sat down and I was thinking to myself, like, okay, let's say on the moderate side, inflation is doing 5% a year. And so I'm like, so that $1 in 5 years, let's say 25 years, I was like, hold on. I was like, um, yeah, this is like I have to, because I'm just like in if inflation is increasing 5% every year and I'm not retiring for another 25 years, like doing the math on it and you seeing how much let's say you're currently paying yourself 80,000 a year. Yeah, when you really think of the math, you're like, bro, hold on. How we're gonna like just based off of inflation. It's just because the not numbers are higher. We're not thinking about when our grandparents or when gas used to
Yes.
be 5 cents.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
we're in the dollars now.
Hmm.
So if you're 40 something, like the both of us, and when you're in that position of thinking to yourself, we already know like Social Security is going to be gone sooner than later
Yes. That's right.
right now. So we need to be present to the fact that we need to start facing, okay, I don't want to say need, but I want to say need. You should be taking the time to face it, because even if you don't retire with $1 million, which honestly, if inflation keeps inflating the way it is, you know, in
Yes.
25, 30 years, yeah, it's going to be what it's going to be. Not even fear mongering. We're just doing the numbers, we're doing the math, we're just looking at what's out there. But in order for us to be prepared, we must take the time to look at it. So one of the things that I thought is like many entrepreneurs assume that their business will fund their retirement. However, they don't make the time for it to actually have a plan. What are some dangers someone can actually face by relying on solely selling a business as a retirement plan? Because some people may think, like, oh, once I get a certain age, my kids will take over, which most times they don't, or I'll sell the business. But if you don't take the time to actually have a plan, how can you truly retire? So, like, what are some dangers people can run into about having that?
Yes. I mean, you said it, as far as everything is about planning, but everything is about knowing your numbers as well. Like you stated, we can plan to say, and like I said, to say, not do, we can plan to say, I'm going to sell my business. I'm going to leave this to my kids. My business is going to fund my retirement. What does that look like? What is your business projected to be next year? What is your business projected to be in 5 years, 10 years? And a lot of times, if we don't even have a retirement plan, we're not even planning, or we're not even giving projections, because we don't know our numbers for our business.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying all that to say that if we don't plan, if we don't have goals, we're not even going to know where we are in a year, in five
Mhm.
years, in 10 years, in 20 years, and what have you. So, first and foremost, I will set up, or I would say, please create, establish, and maintain your goals on a monthly basis, yearly basis, 5 year basis, and what have you. That will give you projections. That will give you that success journey that you want. Because remember, success isn't a destination, it's a journey.
Yeah.
And so remember, you're constantly going to hit milestones. You're constantly going to get to different points. And
Yeah.
so I would say you have to put a comprehensive financial plan together. Just don't think about your business, because things can change in a year, in 5 years. We're looking at AI, we're looking at different applications. So don't, I guess, be adaptable as well. And that's what I said. Look at your goals, plan, because if you don't plan, you're not looking at potentially AI taking over. You're not looking at new technology. You're just saying, okay, where we are today, I have a business, so my business should do this. But you have to make sure that, you're putting in the work, you're doing what you have to do on your side. So I would say, have a comprehensive plan. Make sure you have a retirement plan, not just a plan, accounts. So if it's 1K, if it's a traditional IRA, if it's a Roth IRA, if it's insurance products, be diverse in what you have, because we clearly have seen in the past couple of weeks, having your money in the market short term is not always the best thing. Long term, it's good, because we know the stock market consistently grows from on a year to year basis. It's cyclical, so we will have ups and downs, but as it goes up and down, it's continuously going up.
Yeah.
But you have to put yourself in a position to be diverse and have a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, and I think too is like also just to add on to that is research what someone's willing to pay for your type of business as well. I've been blessed that my mom has owned two daycare centers or educational centers throughout my life. She sold one when I was going into college, and
That's
then she
awesome.
started another one. And right before she passed away, well, we knew it was terminal anyway. So someone bought the business from her, and then I
Oh,
get a
wow.
royalty payment every month.
Okay.
But again, which is great, that again, that's when I say privilege. Like I understand that that's not normal. So, but still, could I retire off of that? No, so it's like being present to the fact of how much you think it's worth and what someone's going to pay are going to be two
Mhm.
different things. So that even if it's for us to retire or for us to give to our family members so that they can sell, you have to understand the worth of it. But even to tie into what you were just teasing about the different types of retirement plans, I have a question for you. What are
Mhm.
some retirement saving options specifically designed for business owners like SEP RAs, solo 401ks, or simple IRAs?
Yes. So, on a traditional sense, you have your traditional IRAs, which are similar to Ks. And so, those are pre taxed retirement plans, or it's qualified money. All that means is it's pre tax. You pay money, you don't pay taxes on the money, it's actually tax deferred. So, as you contribute, on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, or however often you contribute, once you start to pull that money out or make withdrawals, at that particular point, that's when you pay taxes on it. So you don't pay taxes on it when the money is pulled out currently or today. The only time you are taxed is later on down the road when you make withdrawals. So that's for your traditional IRAs and your 401ks. You have Roth IRAs, which Roth IRAs are non-qualified. Non-qualified means that it's already taxed. So you already pay taxes on the money. So once you get your paycheck, a lot of times you'll see in your W-2 statements that certain monies are being pulled out for various things, whether it's Social Security, it can be for your 401k or what have you. Once the money has already been taxed, once you receive that money, which is after tax money, then you can actually contribute to a Roth IRA. At that particular point, the money, if you pull it out for withdrawals later on, you don't pay taxes on that money. And so I always tell my clients, it's good to have that balance, to have money that's going to be taxed later and then to have an account where the money isn't going to be taxed, because you don't want to pull your money out later once you retire. And a lot of times your income may be less. As business owners, your money will probably be more at that particular time. But if you're an employee, your money is going to be, or your income is going to be less because you're not working anymore. So your income tends to drop because it's more stable at that particular point.
Is there a certain combination that you would recommend of doing both, or does it just depend on each individual and their personal goals?
Yes, it depends on each individual, your situation, your circumstance, and also your goals. One thing about Roth IRAs, Roth IRAs are capped. The IRS gives you a limit that you can contribute. Right now, it's $7,000 a year. So you cannot contribute any more than $7,000 in a Roth IRA. Next, more options for a business owner would be you can still contribute to those that I stated as a business owner, but a lot of times to give yourself flexibility. Jesse, you mentioned the SEP, which is the self-employed plan or the self-employed retirement plan. And typically when you have your own business, you want to, instead of doing a 401k, which is typically for an employee because the employer produces a 401k. If you're self-employed or you have your own business, most likely you will do a self-employed retirement plan. That gives you more flexibility. And then also the money that you contribute to your retirement plan, you can actually write it off in your taxes. So it's a tax write-off, which is good
Yeah.
because it can potentially reduce your tax bill or what you owe to the IRS. But also you can contribute more to that as well. You can contribute up to $65,000 a year. So that gives you greater flexibility than a Roth IRA and what have you. But mind you, a SEP IRA is tax deferred as well. So you will pay taxes on that because, as we know, if you're 1099, a lot of times, or even if you're self-employed, a lot of that money tends to be uh, pre-taxed.
Yeah.
And so that would be, for me, that would be a good recommendation or a good benefit for someone to do a set plan as a self-employed person.
That's been something even on my radar. When I used to work in corporate, a while back, I did have contributions into there, and I still have a plan because I did end up using some of it to fund starting my business. However, like going into this new, like I feel like so many people, especially entrepreneurs, like they're trying to avoid tax liability by doing things illegally. Compared to like finding valid ways to be able to help with reducing some of your tax overhead. And the SEP plan is something that has been on my mind to do. And so for that, is that something that they would come to someone like you to do? Or how would they even go about looking for that as a option for themselves?
Yes, I am a conduit. I am someone that can actually put you into or establish a set plan for individuals. Like I said, you have to be self employed to create this particular plan. But we can definitely, I can definitely work with individuals on this. They can set up a one on one. We can go over their financial situation and we can definitely pursue that particular option.
Fantastic. So one of the things I thought would be good to ask is like, so for someone who may be starting late, because statistically, a lot of entrepreneurs are going to be, and I wouldn't say late is relative, but let's just say
Yes.
someone's in their and they're looking for a strategy to catch up on their retirement savings and they're entrepreneur. What would you recommend for them? It's outside of just looking at their numbers, but what would you recommend for them to have an attack towards retirement savings?
Yes. So, as far as retirement, whether you're self employed, an employee, I would say you definitely should start either a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. You definitely want to have one of those, if not both. A traditional, you can contribute more to it than a Roth. A Roth is more confined, but both will give you what you need because both will be in the market. And as I always state, a lot of times people think the real estate market is like gambling, and it's not. It's powerful because the more knowledge you know, you're taking a calculated risk. It's similar to driving a car. It's risky to drive a car, but we're calculated because we took driver's ed. We're cautious. We have the speed limit and what have you. So it's all about using as much caution as possible or using as much calculation and getting the education and getting the information as well. And that's what I tell my clients. First and foremost, I'm not going to push my clients into anything before I let them know the information, the background, making sure that they're comfortable. My job is to make sure that I'm empowering you with the information and making sure that you're comfortable with the decisions that you're making. And so, like you said, I will definitely put them into a Roth, a traditional. If you're self employed, I will definitely put you into a SEP. But first and foremost, I'm going to make sure that it's automated and that it's within your budget as well. It's not just going to be a one time thing like, okay, we're going to start a SEP today and we're going to forget about it. No, we're starting a SEP. It's going to be automated, just like all of the other bills are automated.
Mhm.
We're creating a SEP. If it's $500, we're doing $500 this month until whenever, whether that's
Yeah.
10 years from now, 5 years from now. And then we're going to meet, we're going to do reviews. Okay, you're making more. Now we can contribute more. And so that's what it's all about, starting a plan, being consistent and following up with that plan and doing what we have to do.
I love that. And I think too is like understanding like there's so much power in doing that. And when I say power, like freedom. Like money can provide a certain level of freedom of options and choices as to like what you want to experience in life. And it wasn't until my uncle, I saw what he was able to accomplish. I have an uncle who worked in law enforcement until he retired at a young, I mean, he started in it at a younger age. So by the time he was able to retire, he was like late 50s, I believe. And but because while he was in serving, while he was still serving, he was actively throwing a lot of money into retirement and into his K as well as in stocks. And I believe he had a few Apple, so he had some really
Yeah.
great choices. So when it came up for him to retire, he actually did a contingency plan for what he would do with his life after he was able to retire. So he started a company in the middle of like towards the end of his when he was supposed to retire. So he now does something on the side that he now gets a full retirement from his company, I mean from the police force, but he
Mhm.
also gets money from what he set up for his retirement plan, and then he also has something with the company he has, and that's
That's
options,
amazing.
like that's freedom. And I think that because we don't see, we don't hear, and I think because sometimes, especially in entrepreneur space this day and age, so many people want to look like they have all these things instead of thinking to yourself, like, okay, what do I really see as success for myself?
Mhm.
Like, what would really make me happy, as from a financial standpoint? And doing that long term, like, I love seeing the people that are living their most fabulous lives, and I'm like, but the amount of work that it will take for me to continue to do that
Mhm.
in
Yes.
15 years, I don't even desire to have to show up like that. I'd rather just be out in the middle of some island living my best
That's right.
life,
Hmm.
only spending 2 grand a
No,
month.
that's absolutely.
But that's my choice. Like some people, they want to have these high overheads, but you have to know, like, okay, if I'm setting myself up for all this stuff, how much will it actually cost me on a monthly basis or annual basis to keep that up? And will I really want to do that? And that's why working with a financial planner, I think, can be the most humbling of things for people to do, is kind of like thinking to themselves, like, how can I live the life I want to live and do it in a way that there's longevity in it? Not just like,
Absolutely.
because I love looking at the people that have all this. I'm like, but I can clearly tell they're on a hamster wheel, like,
Yes.
to
Yes.
produce the lifestyle. Like, they gotta keep making a lot of money to produce the lifestyle, to keep attracting people to spend the money. So it's
Yes.
like, I gotta keep doing it, I gotta keep
It's a
doing.
vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. And the thing is because we see it, sometimes it can be put in our hearts like that's something we should want. In reality, it's not anything that we even desire or that it brings us joy. And
Yeah.
so one of the things I thought would be good, I saw that it was that 40% of entrepreneurs prioritize business growth over their personal savings. So when we're talking about the hamster wheel, that is part of it. So 40% of entrepreneurs are prioritizing business growth over personal savings. How can business owners shift their mindset to seeing retirement as a non-negotiable investment?
That's a wow. That's a great question, and that's one of the questions, especially when I first meet with clients. Going back to what you stated, as far as where do you see yourself, or where do you see your business in 5 years, 10 years? What's a priority to you as well? Like, some people know they're shoppers or they're travelers. Like, I want this vacation. I want these shoes. These are non negotiables for me. This is a priority for me. And so in my head, that's what I pay attention to. I pay attention to, okay, this person is a saver. This person is a spender. This person is all about brand name shopping. This person is all about long term. They don't care about sacrificing and, living below the means and what have you. I think that's what it's all about. As a financial planner, I look at, and I'm basically an accountability partner. So essentially, whatever you tell me, whatever goals that we create, I'm going to make sure that we achieve those. Yes, I want to see you have at least one or two retirement plans. But at the same time, I may not be able to convince you that retirement is a priority. It's something that it's going to take a while. If you're with me, eventually it's going to come out. If you say, I'm not focused on retirement, okay, I'm going to work with you. Eventually we're going to get there. But if it's not a priority right now, I'm not going to convince you day one that it's going to be a priority. However, if you're with me, you're going to have a retirement bucket, whether you like it or not. It may not be first and foremost a bucket,
Yeah.
but it's going to be a part of your comprehensive plan with me. You're going to have, if you're a business owner, you're going to have a set plan. If you don't have it, you're going to have, and another thing, not to get on the soapbox, a lot of time as a self-employed individual, we don't have life insurance as well. That needs
Hmm.
to be a focus.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that if you're with me, if you're one of my clients, you're going to have, whether you like it or not. It's certain things, whether, like I said, whether it's a priority to you or not, you're going to do, and then it's going to eventually become a priority for you. So that's how I guess push that agenda. And it's not my agenda. It's going to be an agenda of someone's somewhere down the line. It just may not be where it needs to be today. And I hope that answers the
Yeah, it
question.
does. And I actually even love the fact that you said about an accountability partner. 'Cause that is truly what a financial advisor is like you're guiding them, but also, like you say you want these goals, they're helping you stay on track for those goals. So if you're going to go and work with someone, you have to be in the space of being, I want to learn. Like
Mhm.
nothing irritates my soul as a doing my consulting business is like you coming to me and saying you already know it all.
Yes,
Because then if
yes.
you knew it all, why are you trying to like if you know about how to do budgeting, if you know how to do all these things, you wouldn't need a financial planner per se, you know. But if you're coming to someone, you're wanting that accountability so that you are staying on track with that. So for someone that has never heard that term, or there might be fogginess around a financial planner, is it that to them, they're going to be looking at it as this is another expense I have to pay to have a financial planner? Or is it based off of the product in which they're purchasing through you to be able to execute their vision for their financial goals?
Yes. When I think about a financial planner, I think about the accountability side, but first and foremost, I think about it as a personal investment. So you have to treat it as an investment within that particular individual. And I think a lot of times when you just focus on the expense, you're blowing past whatever the goal was. And so once you think about the cost, you're not really, I guess for some people, they may say, well, paying X, Y, and Z, I'm going to be more invested. And so I say it that way because then you treat it like an investment. But if you just think about, oh, it's just another bill, you're going to try to get rid of it because it's $50, it's $100, it's $500, whatever it is. I can get rid of that. But then you think about down the road, if I would have had that knowledge, if I would have had that accountability, if I would have had put certain things in place, potentially I could have been in a better state. So that $500 that I was trying to save, in the end, I could have 10x that money by putting certain tools in place, by putting certain accounts in place and what have you. So I would say to that individual, a financial planner is great for the information, the impact that that person is going to provide, the knowledge, but try to get out of the way of thinking of it as an expense or as a bill, but think about it as an investment. The same thing that I say as far as your savings account. When I say treat savings like an expense, I'm saying an expense just like any other bill. You have no problems paying a mortgage, so you shouldn't have a problem paying yourself because essentially it is an investment in your future, in emergencies that may come up, in travel that you may need down the road, in buying a house next year. It can provide so many things, but also, first and foremost, it could provide freedom down the road. And that's what you touched on earlier.
Perfect. And so so it would be the investment that they're making plus a advisor fee, or is all included in one? Just
It's
because some people have never heard the term before, so I want to make sure that they
Yeah,
understand.
it's all included in one. My
Okay.
services, if you're a client with me, whatever resources that I have that you may outside of that have to pay for, they will be included in the consultations that we have, the packages that you get with me, consultant fee, whatever you want to call it. It's a one payment thing. It's not necessarily you're paying for my services and you're purchasing products from me and you're purchasing something else and I don't work that way. It's you get all of me or none of me.
Perfect. Yeah, because like again, these are terms that sometimes people have not heard,
Yeah.
and what keeps them sometimes stopped is like,
Mhm.
okay, I may have $100 or $200 or maybe only $50 to put into like a retirement fund. But if it's going to
Mhm.
be X on top of this, sometimes that's what keeps them from even getting started.
Absolutely.
So that's why I thought I would ask that. So as we start to close up, I have just a few more questions.
Sure,
So
sure.
if a business owner is listening right now and has no retirement plan in place, what is the first action step they should be taking today?
Yes. One, please call me. You can get the information, I'm sure, from the link
Yeah.
from Jesse. Please call me because I will definitely put you in some type of retirement plan If you're self-employed, it will definitely be a SEP. Uh, and we'll get started with that. We'll figure out whatever the designated number is, but we'll get started with that today.
Perfect, perfect. And if you don't mind sharing a success story of someone that you've worked with, if possibly in business, how you were able to help them with getting their financial future started with a retirement plan.
Yes, absolutely. I've had a couple of individuals, I guess one in particular, someone who didn't, just like you said, head to the ground, making money. They thought of saving as in, it was extra money, whatever I have left after I pay my bills, I'm going to see what's in my account. If it's some left, cool. If not, that's fine. We'll worry about it next month. And so
Mhm.
I put them in a position to pick a designated number. I think their number was 250 or 275 a month for saving. So that's what they were doing for their saving account, but also I put them into investing as well. And touching on investment really quickly, it's critical, especially in this day and age, to take advantage of investing. My philosophy, I guess one of them would be dollar cost averaging. A lot of times people try to time the market. It's not about timing the market, it's about the time that you're in the market. And so as long as you get in the market, you're good. If you get in today, if you get in tomorrow, sometimes it may be low, sometimes it may be high, but it will balance out if you're consistently investing in the market. And then also, as far as investing, we have to make sure that we get out of just being consumers, just being spenders. When you're investing, that's a way for you to become an owner in that particular company as well. So that's my soapbox when it comes to investing.
Invest and it's so necessary, especially so just so that y'all know, while we're recording this after we're recording this on April the 11th while we're in the middle of the trade off between China and everything right now. So we know the market's been going up and down because I think this is not going to be out for another month. So just to kind of have a perspective of that time period, investing is something that like I've been really leaning into EFTs lately. So then that way I'm not having to know which individual stock I want to do because I research which EFTs have a specific type of return over a five, because I'm not looking to touch the money.
Sure,
Like for
sure.
me, anything I'm purchasing right now, like I'm thinking, what do I want 60? Because I have a aunt, a great aunt, my grandmother's sister, who just hit 100. My grandmother passed at 93.
Oh, that's
My
a blessing.
father's mom is like mid 80s. Like a lot of the people in my family are living to 80s, 80 plus. So I'm like, okay.
That's good genes.
I'm like, I got to plan. Like, I can't, like I want to be present to it. So I'm not touching the money anytime soon. So
That's
EFT
right.
makes sense, from a long-term play and even from short-term plays,
Sure.
depending on what businesses are a part of it. So like the only way you can learn that is just by facing it. And it is like I love how you said earlier in this conversation, it's a process and a journey. So you'll learn like, okay, what are some stocks I really want to invest in or being present to? That does not mean you need to be reading Wall Street Journal every single day. Like that's why you even work with a financial planner, just so you can have conversations like, hey, I saw that they're talking about this. Have you heard about some stock? Like you need to be able to talk to people about those conversations so that you can make wise decisions on where you're placing your money so that you can get it long term, or if you're doing aggressive or short term. Like there's
Yeah.
different ways you can do financial. And I think that that's why I thought it was so important for us to have this, because often when I am talking to entrepreneurs, a lot of them aren't aware of how much money their business is actually making. So then that obviously tells you they don't know how much money they are making. And there's a lot of bad information that's even floating out there as to all of this. And I wanted to bring it to this podcast because having someone to talk to you about and just the beginning stages of it and giving you a great resource to be able to talk to Larry about this is because I see too many people that because they aren't making these plans that they're legitimately dying with their business and debt, and they've given everything to this, which is great, but then there's nothing that they actually got to reap the rewards or the benefits of the sacrifice they made to start that business. So, for those that want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yes, I'm on social media. You can reach me at OPOTEAT JR on Instagram, as well as Larry Poteat Jr. on Facebook. My email address is Citra, and that's SITRA associates llc at gmail.com. In addition to that, I am available to book consultations. I do one-on-ones. I have 3 separate packages, one for beginners. I call it a financial boot camp, especially if you're a beginner. It's really to ingratiate yourself with whether it's budgeting, saving, whatever you're coming to the table with. I meet with you twice on a particular month. So that's the boot camp. I do another transformational package that's more so on a 3 month to 4 month journey. That's where it's going to transform your finances, get you started to where you need to get to. And then I have a freedom package as well. That's a year-long package. That's more so accountability. We're going to get in the trenches. I'm a huge person that follows up. So I'm a great person to have as an accountability partner. So, if you guys are interested in those one-on-one consultations, please feel free to grab the information for me as well. And then I just want to talk about 2 products really quickly. I do have a workbook, which is great. It's for 2025. It goes over, it has a budget template for you each and every month, January through December, but also lessons learned that you get each and every month from, did you miss a goal? Did your budget that you planned on, did you exceed your budget and that you quote unquote went in the red? For savings, did you hit your savings goal? And then investing, like I said, even if you come to me without certain things being a priority, once we start working, they're going to be a priority. Even if you don't think they are, you're still going to start things that you haven't started previous to meeting with me. So that's the workbook, as well as I have an ebook that gets into more financial terminology, details, and things like that, especially as Jesse stated, getting into investing as well, doing the knowledge, getting the research. So I have plenty for you guys. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. Thanks again, Jesse, for this opportunity. It's greatly appreciated from my Banneker family.
No, it's my absolute pleasure. I felt like this is something that I couldn't do first season without talking about, because I want for people to really be setting themselves up for the success that they're desiring. So I look forward to hearing the comments and reading how this is going to impact each and every one of you. Thank you all.